In a world increasingly characterized by complex relationships and emotional narratives, many find themselves ensnared in the subtle web of psychological manipulation. Did you know that nearly 70% of individuals have experienced some form of emotional abuse in their lifetime? This statistic is not merely a number. It underscores a reality that affects countless lives. Understanding the underlying tactics of manipulation is vital for self-empowerment, yet many are left confused by terminology that often overlaps, leading to misconceptions. What's the difference between trauma bonding and Stockholm syndrome? Why do we conflate loyalty with unhealthy attachment? This book, Trauma Bonding versus Stockholm Syndrome, Shatter the Illusion of Loyalty, seeks to illuminate these critical distinctions. As you venture through each chapter, you'll discover how psychological tactics shape human behavior and the mechanisms that foster both connection and dependency. This journey will reveal the non-conscious processes that dictate our relationships, enabling you to recognize when loyalty veers into unhealthy territory. Expect to engage with thought-provoking examples drawn from real-life scenarios, highlighting the urgency of understanding these terms for your mental and emotional well-being. Moreover, each chapter will arm you with practical strategies to identify manipulative behaviors, granting you the tools necessary to protect your psychological health. By the end of this book, you won't just have a clearer understanding of psychological concepts. You'll possess actionable insights that empower you to reclaim your autonomy. Prepare to challenge your perceptions and enhance your self-awareness as we navigate through these pivotal topics together. Trauma Bonding versus Stockholm Syndrome, Shatter the Illusion of Loyalty, compiled and published by Cloaked Psyche. Chapter 1. Unmasking the Illusion of Devotion. Imagine a woman named Sarah who finds herself in a relationship where she feels both incredibly devoted to her partner and inexplicably trapped. Despite the love she believes she has, Sarah often feels as though she's walking on eggshells, worried about her partner's reactions. This dynamic is more common than you think. It brings us face to face with two often misconstrued psychological concepts: trauma bonding and Stockholm syndrome. At first glance, these terms seem interchangeable, yet they carry distinct implications that can shape our understanding of emotional ties and dependence. Grasping the nuances between them is crucial, not only for gaining insight into our relationships, but also for safeguarding our mental and emotional well-being. Let's delve deeper into trauma bonding, a psychological response that can manifest as an intense emotional connection to someone who is simultaneously a source of distress or harm. Trauma bonding occurs when the cycle of abuse and reconciliation creates an unbreakable bond, often leading individuals to feel utterly devoted to their abuser despite the pain inflicted upon them. This phenomenon can arise in various contexts, from romantic relationships to family dynamics and even workplace interactions. The essence of trauma bonding lies in the erratic emotional climate created by intermittent reinforcement, where positive experiences are overshadowed by controlling or abusive behaviors. For example, think of a partner who, after a period of manipulation or aggression, apologizes profusely and showers their significant other with affection. This cycle can confuse the victim, creating an emotional roller coaster that keeps them anchored in the relationship. In social settings, trauma bonding can often appear as fierce loyalty to a friend or peer who mistreats or belittles one's self-worth. The victim might rationalize their attachment by focusing on the good times instead of recognizing the overall negative impact of the relationship. This is why many people mistakenly view their bonds as profound and meaningful, rather than recognizing the underlying psychological manipulation at play. Within the workplace, trauma bonds can lead employees to feel fiercely loyal to their employer, even if the work environment is toxic. The cycle of praise burned brightly alongside criticism creates a climate of stress where individuals feel obligated to stay, fearing the repercussions of leaving, which can ultimately lead to burnout or emotional exhaustion. Understanding trauma bonding is vital for unraveling the intricate ties that bind us to harmful relationships. By recognizing the symptoms of trauma bonding, one can begin to differentiate between healthy attachment and manipulative devotion. This awareness is the first courageous step toward reclaiming your power and demanding healthier dynamics in your relationships. whether they are romantic, platonic, or professional. If you want more insights into the world of psychological dynamics, be sure to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche, where we explore these topics in greater depth and empower you with knowledge to navigate your relationships more effectively. Through understanding and awareness, you can break free from the chains of trauma and begin forging genuine connections built on trust and respect. As we now turn our attention to Stockholm Syndrome, it's essential to clarify how this psychological phenomenon is distinctly different from trauma bonding. Stockholm Syndrome refers to a complex emotional response that can occur when a person develops positive feelings towards their captor or abuser, often arising in hostage situations or abusive relationships. For example, consider a situation in which a person is taken hostage during a robbery. Over time, they may start to empathize with their captor, even defending their actions or justifying their behavior. This response is rooted in survival instincts. The hostage may perceive emotional attachment as a means of gaining favor and reducing the chance of harm. Contrasting this with trauma bonding highlights the nuances of each concept. While trauma bonding develops through cycles of abuse intertwined with moments of nurturing and affection, Stockholm Syndrome is more directly linked to the dynamics of power and captivity. An individual in a trauma bond may passionately love their partner, believing that their relationship has redeeming qualities despite the abuse inflicted. In contrast, a person suffering from Stockholm Syndrome may develop a bond rooted in fear and survival rather than love, finding themselves psychologically aligned with their captor out of necessity, not affection. To truly grasp the distinction between trauma bonding and Stockholm Syndrome, think of the metaphor of a ship in a storm. A person caught in trauma bonding is like a sailor who has become accustomed to the unpredictable waves, tethered to the ship out of a mix of loyalty and the hope that the storm will pass. They endure turbulent waters, convinced that they can weather the chaos as long as they hold on. Meanwhile, a hostaged individual experiencing Stockholm Syndrome is akin to a sailor forced to navigate the treacherous seas of another's making, accepting their captor's steering hand in the hope of survival. Though both situations evoke intense emotional responses, the roots of those emotions diverge significantly. Understanding the distinctions between these psychological phenomena empowers individuals to recognize their situations more clearly. By identifying whether one is in a trauma bond or experiencing Stockholm Syndrome, you can take informed steps towards emotional clarity and healing. Reflect on your relationships and consider these questions. Do you feel a sense of control in your dynamics? Are your feelings of loyalty mixed with fear or confusion? Journaling your thoughts can offer clarity on your emotional entanglements, helping you map the nature of your attachments. To further safeguard yourself against these psychological tactics, it's crucial to practice self-reflection and awareness regularly. Pay attention to how you feel in relationships. Do you feel uplifted and supported, or do you find yourself reacting from a place of fear or obligation? Establish boundaries that honor your emotional well-being and seek relationships that bring balance and positivity into your life. If you notice signs of manipulation or controlling behavior, don't hesitate to reach out for help or seek support from trusted friends or professionals. As we conclude this chapter, remember that self-awareness is a powerful tool in reclaiming your personal narrative. By equipping yourself with this knowledge, you're better prepared to navigate the emotional waters of your relationships. For more insights on psychological dynamics and self-protection strategies, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche, where we continue to explore these essential topics together. Your journey toward understanding and empowerment starts here. Chapter 2: Trauma Bonding versus Stockholm Syndrome Defined. Have you ever found yourself clinging to a relationship that felt both comforting and suffocating, even when you knew it wasn't healthy for you? Many individuals face this dilemma, often feeling bound to their partners despite experiencing emotional turmoil. This puzzling emotional landscape can often lead people to confuse trauma bonding with Stockholm Syndrome, two concepts that bear striking similarities yet operate under different psychological processes. This chapter will help clarify both terms, shedding light on their distinctions and empowering you with the knowledge to recognize these dynamics in your relationships. Trauma bonding occurs when a person forms a strong emotional connection to someone who engages in abusive behaviors. This bond typically develops through a cycle of abuse and affection, where moments of love are interspersed with periods of manipulation or aggression. The complexity of this attachment often leaves the individual in a state of confusion, as they may rationalize their loyalty to their abuser by recalling the joyful memories shared together. For instance, consider someone who might stay with a partner that frequently exhibits jealousy or possessiveness, believing that these actions stem from love rather than recognizing them as signs of control. This psychological entrapment allows the abuser to maintain power while simultaneously fostering a false sense of devotion. In relationships, trauma bonding can manifest through various behaviors, such as prioritizing the abuser's needs over one's own or justifying harmful actions due to past love. Individuals may feel compelled to protect their abuser or believe that they can fix them, essentially taking on the emotional labor required to maintain the relationship, despite the toll it takes on their mental health. This cycle can also extend into workplaces, where an employee may feel inexplicably devoted to a toxic boss or organizational culture, leading them to consistently tolerate unfavorable treatment in the hopes of receiving validation or recognition. Understanding trauma bonding is crucial, as it allows victims to identify and acknowledge the unhealthy dynamics at play in their relationships. By becoming aware of the subtle manipulations and cycles of affection intertwined with control, individuals can begin to find clarity in their emotional experiences. It invites self-reflection and critical examination of the relationships they hold dear. As we break down these concepts, it's vital to reflect on your own experiences. Have you ever felt torn between love and resentment in a relationship? What patterns do you notice that might indicate a trauma bond? Journaling about your feelings and experiences can provide valuable insights into your relationships, shedding light on the emotional ties that bind you. Understanding the roots and manifestations of trauma bonding brings us one step closer to empowering ourselves against its grasp. Recognizing the traits of unhealthy attachments allows individuals to take proactive measures toward healing and reclaiming their autonomy. To delve deeper into the intricate nature of these psychological phenomena and learn how to protect yourself from manipulation, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche. By continuing this journey together, we can enhance our understanding of psychological dynamics and foster healthier, more fulfilling relationships. As we continue our exploration, let's shift our focus to Stockholm Syndrome, which, while still intertwined with themes of emotional attachment, operates under different circumstances compared to trauma bonding. Stockholm Syndrome describes a psychological phenomenon where a hostage or victim develops feelings of sympathy or loyalty towards their captor. This unexpected affection can arise from an intense situation where the victim perceives their captor's actions as protective or benevolent, even if they are harmful. Imagine a person taken hostage during a bank robbery. Over time, they might begin to empathize with their captor's plight, viewing them not just as an aggressor, but as someone who shares a tragic story. This emotional shift often emerges as a defense mechanism, a strategy for navigating a life-threatening environment. To illustrate the distinction further, consider two individuals in problematic relationships. Lisa represents trauma bonding, wherein she continually rationalizes her partner's explosive behavior, believing that each instance of emotional upheaval is followed by a grand gesture of love. Her identity becomes wrapped in trying to appease her partner, and despite the fear and pain, she feels an overwhelming sense of loyalty. On the other hand, Sarah finds herself in a situation more akin to Stockholm Syndrome. Although she experiences intimidation from her partner, her affection arises from a misplaced belief that staying with him is the only way to ensure her safety. Lisa's relationship is characterized by a back-and-forth cycle of affection and abuse, while Sarah's stems from a need to align with her captor to survive emotionally. The key difference lies in the foundation of the emotional connection. In trauma bonding, love and fear intermingle, creating a tumultuous bond steeped in historical emotional exchanges. In contrast, Stockholm Syndrome develops primarily out of an immediate survival response, where empathy shifts towards the captor for very different reasons. This distinction is essential, as it informs how individuals navigate their relationships and the steps they need to take to regain control. Now that we have explored the essence of both concepts, it's time to focus on practical applications. Recognizing the signs of trauma bonding and Stockholm Syndrome in your life is a pivotal step toward emotional clarity. Start by asking yourself reflective questions. Do you find yourself justifying harmful behaviors in your relationships? Are you feeling a sense of loyalty that overshadows your own well-being? Consider journaling about your experiences to identify patterns and feelings that may highlight whether you're entangled in a trauma bond or sympathetic to a captor's narrative. To protect yourself from these manipulative dynamics, prioritize your emotional health by setting clear boundaries. Openly communicate your needs in relationships, and don't shy away from seeking support from trusted friends or professionals. Engaging in self-care practices can fortify your resilience. Regularly evaluate the relationships in your life to ensure they contribute positively to your overall well-being. As we wrap up this chapter, remember that understanding these psychological tactics is vital to reclaiming your autonomy. By equipping yourself with knowledge and self-awareness, you can foster healthier and more fulfilling connections. For further insights and strategies to navigate these complex dynamics, be sure to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche. Together, we can continue to explore the fascinating intricacies of human psychology, empowering you to protect yourself from manipulation and lead a more authentic life. Chapter 3. The Role of Fear in Attachment. Imagine a man named Tom who finds himself in a relationship that stirs a mix of passion and anxiety. He is deeply in love with his partner, but there is an undercurrent of fear that colors every interaction. Tom often feels that if he doesn't do things just right, or if he expresses his needs, he risks losing her love or facing her anger. This reality illustrates a crucial yet often misunderstood aspect of human relationships: the role of fear in attachment. It's essential to unravel how fear shapes our emotional bonds and why it can blur the lines between healthy connection and unhealthy dependence. Fear plays a significant role in attachment theories, often dictating how we engage in our relationships. When fear takes hold, it can create a foundation of attachment that is not based on trust and security, but on anxiety and insecurity. Fear of abandonment, rejection, or conflict can lead individuals to adapt their behaviors in unhealthy ways, avoiding honest communication for the sake of maintaining a facade of harmony. For example, consider a workplace setting where an employee feels apprehensive about expressing their ideas. They may suppress their creativity and opinions to curry favor with a domineering boss, or avoid rocking the boat, leading them to remain stuck in a role that stifles their growth. In romantic or familial contexts, similar dynamics emerge as individuals feel compelled to forgo their needs in order to appease those they fear disappointing. In relationships, this fear-driven attachment can manifest as people-pleasing behaviors or profound anxiety about disagreements. Individuals may endure emotionally unsupportive partners or familial expectations out of fear of abandonment or disapproval. They might convince themselves that staying quiet during conflicts is the best way to preserve the relationship, ultimately leading to feelings of resentment and isolation. For some, the fear of being alone can overshadow every decision, resulting in chronic insecurity that distorts their sense of self-worth. This interplay of fear and attachment is complicated, as it can exist alongside genuine affection and love. It compels individuals to create emotional dependencies that hinder their independence and self-identity. Tom's ongoing anxiety about maintaining his partner's approval becomes the lens through which he views their entire relationship, often blinding him to the red flags of unhealthy attachment. Recognizing the role of fear in your attachments is a pivotal step toward empowerment. Take a moment to reflect upon your own relationships. Do you find yourself acting out of fear rather than genuine desires? Are there patterns that encourage you to suppress your true feelings to maintain harmony? Engaging in self-reflection through journaling or deep contemplation can illuminate focal points where fear may be influencing your behavior. As we navigate these challenging emotional landscapes together, it's vital to acknowledge that understanding these patterns is not a quick fix. It's a journey. It invites you to examine your emotional triggers and reassess the foundations of your attachments. Gaining clarity regarding fear's influence enables you to distinguish between healthy love and the insecurities that tether you to unhealthy dynamics. For further exploration of these intricate emotional themes and to discover ways to cultivate healthier relationships, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche. By delving deeper into the nuances of human attachment, you'll find the insight and strength necessary to take decisive steps toward fostering emotional well-being and independence. Moving forward, let us delve into the aspect of dependency that arises from fear in relationships. The concept of dependency is intricately tied to security, yet it can morph into unhealthy reliance due to the fear of abandonment or rejection. Dependency based on fear is not just about needing someone emotionally. It often involves an expectation that one's happiness or sense of security is inextricably linked to another person's behavior or feelings. Think of a woman named Rachel, who is in a relationship where her partner frequently dismisses her feelings. Much like Tom, she is often anxious about the potential consequences of voicing her thoughts, feeling that any perceived conflict might lead to a breakup. Rachel's dependency becomes apparent as she begins to compromise her well-being to keep peace, convinced that her happiness hinges on maintaining her partner's affection. To contrast this with the earlier concept of fear-driven attachment, it's important to recognize that while fear can drive both dynamics, the motivations can differ. In fear-driven attachment, individuals often adapt their behaviors to avoid conflict, leading them to suppress their own needs and insecurities. However, in dependencies bred from fear, the primary motivation is often rooted in the preservation of their emotional state and identity surrounding another person. Rachel, for instance, may attempt to predict her partner's reactions rather than express her own feelings, believing that the relationship defines her self-worth. This resultant dependency can create a vicious cycle where her emotional stability becomes contingent on her partner's unpredictability. Understanding how these two dynamics manifest in relationships is crucial for awareness and growth. Key differences lie in the underlying motivations. Fear-driven attachment often seeks to maintain harmony at the expense of personal well-being, while dependency from fear reveals a compelling need to avoid potential trauma or loss anchored in emotional instability. A relatable analogy is that of a person standing on a tightrope. While fear-driven attachment might cause them to walk cautiously to maintain balance, fear dependency feels like clinging to the rope for dear life, inhibiting any movement and preventing introspection. As we navigate these complex emotional terrains, it's important to recognize the signs of unhealthy dependency. Begin by evaluating your relationships. Do you feel as though you must conform to keep someone in your life? Are you experiencing anxiety as a result of worrying that your partner may leave if you assert your independence? Reflect on the nature of your emotional connections. Journaling can be a useful tool to explore these thoughts, enabling you to articulate what's healthy and what needs reevaluation. To protect yourself from the potential pitfalls of dependency born from fear, practice self-empowerment techniques. Setting boundaries is essential. Articulate your needs clearly and assertively. Start small, perhaps by voicing your thoughts in less confrontational situations, and gradually build your confidence. Cultivating a network of supportive relationships outside of any singular bond can also foster a sense of security, enabling you to move away from fear-driven dependencies. Engage in self-care practices that promote your emotional well-being, such as mindfulness exercises or nurturing hobbies that fortify your sense of identity. As we conclude this chapter, remember that awareness is a vital step in reclaiming your emotional health. Understanding fear's role and recognizing dependency can help pave the way for healthier relationships built on trust, independence, and mutual respect. To gain further insights into emotional dynamics and learn additional strategies for fostering your self-awareness, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche. Together, we can continue exploring the complexities of human relationships, empowering you to forge deeper connections based on authenticity and self-empowerment. Chapter 4. How Control and Dependency Take Hold. Consider a scenario where a young woman named Emma becomes increasingly anxious about her decisions since entering a new relationship. Initially, everything seemed perfect. Her partner was charming, attentive, and focused on her needs. However, as the relationship progressed, Emma began to feel as if she was losing her sense of self. Her partner would suggest what she should wear, who she should hang out with, and how late she could stay out, all under the guise of concern. While he often framed his controlling behavior as protective, the reality was that Emma found herself becoming more and more dependent on him for her happiness and self-worth. This offers an insightful glimpse into the psychological dynamics of control and dependency, which are often mistaken as signs of love and care, but can in fact be indicators of emotional manipulation. Control in relationships often manifests when one partner exerts influence over the other's thoughts, behaviors, and decisions. This tactic usually stems from an underlying desire for power or dominance, masquerading as love or concern. The controlling partner may believe that they are acting in the best interests of their significant other, convinced that their actions demonstrate a level of care that ultimately ensures the other person's happiness. However, what appears as loving guidance can quickly erode an individual's autonomy, fostering an unhealthy environment characterized by dependency on the controlling partner for validation and self-esteem. For instance, consider a workplace scenario in which a manager continuously micromanages an employee's tasks. The employee, initially eager to please, might gradually lose confidence in their own abilities, relying entirely on the manager's directives rather than trusting their judgment. Such control often seeps into various facets of life, blurring lines and distorting perceptions of love and support. In social settings, a hypercritical friend may attempt to mold your behavior under the guise of helping you fit in or succeed socially. Over time, the subtle remarks designed to correct you begin to affect your self-image and breed dependency on their approval. To understand how control translates into dependency, one must recognize that dependency is not merely an emotional bond, but a state of reliance linked directly to that control. When individuals lose their voice and confidence due to someone else's dominance, they become dependent on that person for validation, reassurance, and identity. This interplay often produces an insidious cycle. The more control someone exerts, the more the other individual feels drawn to them, mistaking dependence for closeness or loyalty. Your awareness of these dynamics is paramount to your personal development and emotional well-being. Reflect on your relationships and whether you ever feel restricted or belittled. Do you find yourself constantly seeking validation from a partner or friend? Are there moments when you realize you hesitate to express your thoughts or desires? Journaling about your encounters can provide clarity, revealing patterns in your interactions that might need addressing. Recognizing feelings of control and the resulting dependency is crucial in reclaiming your sense of self. Establish boundaries in your relationships to assert your autonomy and strive to communicate your feelings honestly. By doing this, you not only empower yourself, but also challenge others to respect your individuality. As we explore these psychological dimensions deeper, it's vital to equip yourself with strategies for balance and self-protection. For further exploration of these intricate dynamics and more tools to foster healthy relationships, remember to subscribe to my channel, Cloak Psyche. Together, we will navigate the complex landscape of emotional interactions, empowering you to cultivate relationships built on trust and mutual respect. As we delve deeper into the nature of control and dependency, it's essential to differentiate between these two interconnected concepts and explore how they manifest in various aspects of our lives. While control often implies a direct influence one person has over another, dependency reveals the implications of that control on an individual's sense of self. Control can exist without dependency. However, when control escalates, it frequently breeds dependency in the affected individual, shaping the relationship into one that feels increasingly suffocating. Let's consider a contrasting example to further illustrate this distinction. Imagine a couple, Anna and Mark. In their relationship, Mark often dictates what Anna should do, expressing strong opinions about her choices, from friends to hobbies. This exemplifies control, where Mark's insistence on managing Anna's life leads her to feel incapable of making decisions without his input. Anna becomes more reliant on Mark for approval and validation, gradually losing her assertiveness and confidence. In contrast, consider a different couple, Lisa and John, where Lisa has a strong sense of autonomy but often depends emotionally on John for support during stressful times. While she values his opinion, her confidence in making decisions doesn't waver when he isn't around. The difference here is clear. Lisa retains her independence, maintaining a healthy balance where she can lean on her partner without losing her identity. These examples underline a fundamental misconception that dependency is solely a product of love and care. Many people believe that to depend on someone is inherently healthy, equating it to a testament of love or commitment. However, dependency rooted in control can distort genuine affection, creating a toxic environment where one partner feels stifled while the other feels empowered through manipulation. This dynamic may lead to a false sense of security for both individuals, depriving them of authentic connection and healthy emotional exchange. To better illustrate the differences between control and dependency, consider an analogy involving a combination of chess and dance. In a chess game, one player may exert control by strategically moving their pieces to confine the opponent's options, limiting their ability to respond. This reflects control in relationships, where one partner attempts to dictate the other's moves, often undermining their decision-making power. In contrast, a well-executed dance illustrates balance. Each partner influences the other while navigating the dance together fluidly. In a healthy relationship, both individuals contribute equally, leading to a collaborative experience rather than a dominating one. Awareness of control and dependency dynamics is crucial for personal empowerment and establishing healthy relationships. Begin by reflecting on your current relationships. Do you often feel like you are compromising your beliefs or desires to appease someone else? Take note of interactions that evoke feelings of anxiety or discomfort. Consider journaling your observations to understand the impact of these dynamics on your well-being. To protect yourself from falling into patterns of unhealthy control and dependency, prioritize open communication with those around you. Establish clear boundaries that express your needs and expectations, empowering you to assert your preferences without fear. Additionally, seek out supportive, encouraging relationships that promote your independence rather than cultivating reliance. Engaging in self-care practices such as mindfulness or hobbies can bolster your confidence and emotional resilience, reducing vulnerability to controlling influences. As this chapter concludes, remember that fostering self-awareness and establishing healthy boundaries can significantly influence your emotional landscape. Together, we will continue to explore how to strengthen these skills and nurture empowering relationships. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche, where we'll delve further into understanding emotional dynamics and strategies for maintaining authentic connections. Your journey towards self-empowerment and healthier relationships starts here. Chapter 5. Emotional Manipulation, a Shared Core. Have you ever found yourself questioning your feelings after a conversation, unsure if your reactions were warranted or if they were a result of someone else's influence? This unsettling experience is more common than one might think and highlights the pervasive nature of emotional manipulation in our lives. Whether in friendships, romantic relationships, or workplaces, understanding emotional manipulation is crucial for maintaining healthy interpersonal dynamics. Many people conflate emotional manipulation with simply being persuasive or assertive, but these two practices can drastically differ. This chapter aims to dissect emotional manipulation and shed light on its subtle tactics, allowing you to better navigate your relationships and safeguard your well-being. Emotional manipulation occurs when someone uses deceptive or exploitative tactics to influence another person's thoughts or feelings, typically to serve their own interests. This form of manipulation often thrives on vulnerability, as the manipulator seeks to exploit insecurities, fears, or past traumas to bend the victim's perception. For instance, consider a scenario where a colleague consistently takes credit for your ideas in a team meeting. While they may express gratitude in private, their public behavior undermines your confidence and diminishes your contributions. This tactic creates a toxic environment that can leave you questioning your worth and capabilities. The colleague manipulates the situation, effectively leveraging emotional intimidation to maintain a sense of dominance and control. In personal relationships, emotional manipulation can take on various forms, from guilt-tripping to gaslighting. A common example of guilt-tripping is when a partner reminds you of all the sacrifices they've made for the relationship, implying that failing to meet their expectations would diminish their efforts. This behavior can create an overwhelming sense of obligation, causing you to prioritize their happiness over your own. On the other hand, gaslighting involves making you doubt your perceptions and experiences, leading you to second-guess yourself. This cycle can erode self-esteem and reinforce dependency on the manipulator for validation and approval. Emotional manipulation can also manifest in social situations, where one person may intentionally manipulate group dynamics for their benefit. For instance, a friend may sow discord within a social circle, pitting people against one another to emerge as the controller of social interactions. Their actions may stem from insecurity or a desire for control, blurring the lines between genuine friendships and toxic rivalry. Identifying emotional manipulation is critical for personal empowerment. Be aware of situations that consistently leave you feeling drained, confused, or doubting your perceptions. Recognize patterns in your relationships. Do certain individuals often evoke feelings of guilt or obligation? Engaging in reflective journaling can help clarify your experiences, enabling you to pinpoint manipulative tactics as they occur. To protect yourself from the detrimental effects of emotional manipulation, establish boundaries that elevate your self-worth. Practice assertive communication, expressing your feelings candidly while standing firm against pressures to conform. Keep in mind that empathy does not require you to compromise your values or needs. Surround yourself with trustworthy individuals who respect and appreciate your authenticity, encouraging an emotionally supportive environment. As we move through these intricate dynamics together, remember that being informed is the first line of defense against emotional manipulation. For further insights on recognizing manipulative behaviors and fostering emotional resilience, please subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche. Together, we will explore powerful strategies for maintaining healthy relationships and empowering ourselves against manipulation in all its forms. Your journey towards emotional clarity begins now. As we continue our exploration of emotional manipulation, let's turn our attention to gaslighting, a particularly insidious form of manipulation that can deeply affect an individual's self-perception and reality. While emotional manipulation encompasses a broad spectrum of tactics used to influence someone's feelings, gaslighting is a targeted strategy aimed at making a person question their sanity, memories, or perceptions. For instance, picture a scenario where a person named Megan repeatedly tells her partner that she never brought up a significant issue, despite the partner vividly remembering the conversation. By denying her partner's reality and insisting that their memory is faulty, Megan cultivates confusion, leading her partner to doubt their own judgment. This is a classic example of gaslighting, where the manipulator seeks to weaken their victim's confidence in their reality, thereby asserting psychological control. It's important to clarify how emotional manipulation and gaslighting differ, despite their overlapping qualities. Emotional manipulation can involve a wide range of tactics, such as guilt, fear, or shame, to influence another's feelings or actions through indirect means. In contrast, gaslighting is more narrowly focused on undermining the victim's ability to trust themselves. Think of emotional manipulation as a storm that generates a variety of turbulences, causing visible chaos, while gaslighting acts as a steady fog that obscures clarity, making it difficult for someone to navigate their surroundings without doubt. Both tactics can have damaging effects, yet gaslighting takes manipulation a step further by systematically dismantling a person's confidence and autonomy. To illustrate the distinction even further, consider a memorable analogy involving a light switch. Emotional manipulation is like dimming the lights. It creates a shift in the emotional atmosphere, leading to discomfort or confusion without extinguishing the light completely. On the other hand, gaslighting feels akin to breaking the light bulb. It not only dims the light, but renders it completely ineffective, leaving the person in darkness, unable to see clearly or trust their environment. By grasping this analogy, one can better differentiate the effects these manipulative tactics have on individuals and their relationships. Recognizing the signs of gaslighting is essential for reclaiming your emotional strength. When you find yourself questioning your memory or judgment after conversations with someone, take a step back and reflect. Does this person frequently dismiss your feelings or experiences? Utilize journaling as a tool to document your thoughts and interactions to foster clarity. Reflect on the emotions you felt. Do you often experience confusion or self-doubt after talking to someone? These reflections can help expose the patterns that may indicate gaslighting. To protect yourself from falling victim to gaslighting, it's crucial to establish solid boundaries and cultivate a support network of trusted individuals who can validate your experiences. Make it a priority to communicate openly about what you're feeling, without the fear of judgment. Pay attention to your intuition. If something feels off, honor those feelings and seek out a perspective that offers clarity rather than confusion. As we wrap up this chapter, remember that understanding emotional manipulation and gaslighting empowers you to reclaim your agency and develop healthier relationships. For deeper insights and strategies to help you navigate these complex dynamics, be sure to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche. Together, we will explore how to recognize these tactics and foster emotional resilience, ensuring you create relationships grounded in respect and authenticity. Your journey towards self-awareness and empowerment continues here. Chapter 6: Captive Mindset versus Cycles of Abuse. Have you ever felt trapped in a relationship, struggling to break free despite the pain it causes you? This feeling is more common than you might think, and speaks to the complex dynamics of the captive mindset and the cycles of abuse. These two concepts often overlap and are frequently mistaken for one another, making it vital for us to clarify their distinctions. Understanding these dynamics won't just help you identify them in your own life, but it can also empower you to make healthier choices and break free from cycles that no longer serve you. The captive mindset refers to a psychological state where an individual feels mentally and emotionally confined by their circumstances, often believing they have no choice but to remain in a situation, even when it is detrimental. This mindset often arises from deep-seated beliefs about one's worth or abilities, leading individuals to feel helpless in the face of adversity. For example, consider the story of James, who has been in a toxic relationship for several years. Despite ongoing emotional abuse and manipulation from his partner, James remains convinced he cannot find someone better or that he does not deserve happiness. This belief traps him in a cycle of suffering, diminishing his self-esteem and reinforcing the idea that leaving would result in further loneliness and heartache. In relationships, a captive mindset can lead individuals to rationalize unhealthy behaviors, often feeling compelled to endure mistreatment rather than address it directly. This phenomenon also manifests in workplaces, where employees may tolerate toxic environments out of fear of losing their jobs or feeling incapable of finding better opportunities. A classic example is the employee who stays in a role that stifles their growth due to the belief that their skills are inadequate for the job market. Such a mindset can create a paralyzing fear of change, effectively trapping individuals in situations that hinder their personal and professional development. While the captive mindset captures the essence of feeling trapped, it's essential to differentiate it from cycles of abuse. Cycles of abuse refer to the recurring patterns of abusive behavior, followed by a temporary phase of reconciliation and affection. For instance, in an abusive relationship, there may be periods characterized by intense emotional conflict, followed by apologies and promises of change. This cycle can confuse victims, who may find themselves oscillating between feelings of hope during good moments and despair when conflicts arise. The cyclical nature of abuse creates an emotional dependency that reinforces the captive mindset, leaving individuals feeling increasingly powerless to change their circumstances. To deepen our understanding of these concepts, envision the analogy of a hamster on a wheel. The captive mindset resembles the hamster, running in place but never getting anywhere, convinced that it must keep running to survive. However, the cycles of abuse are like the wheel's structure itself, forcing the hamster into an endless loop of effort without escape. Both dynamics contribute to a sense of entrapment, making it crucial for individuals to recognize the patterns that keep them bound to unhealthy situations. Recognizing these psychological states is essential for reclaiming your sense of agency. Take the time to reflect on your circumstances. Do you find yourself justifying staying in situations that harm you? Are there moments when you feel powerless to assert your needs or desires? Engaging in reflective journaling can help you identify patterns in your relationships, offering you the clarity needed to evaluate your circumstances further. To break free from a captive mindset or the cycles of abuse, start by setting small, achievable goals that allow you to reclaim your autonomy. Exploring new activities, seeking therapy, or building supportive social networks can gradually shift your perspective and instill a sense of empowerment. As we navigate these intricate dynamics, always remember that recognizing your own worth is a powerful catalyst for change. Each step taken toward understanding and freedom is a testament to your strength. For further insights into these psychological dynamics and strategies for fostering independence and healthy relationships, be sure to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche. Together, we will explore the complexities of human behavior and empower you to cultivate a life filled with authenticity and fulfillment. Your journey towards self-awareness and liberation begins here. As we delve deeper into the dynamics of the captive mindset, it's essential to distinguish it from the cycles of abuse and understand how these concepts intertwine yet retain their unique characteristics. While the captive mindset embodies the feeling of being trapped by one's own beliefs and perceptions, the cycles of abuse refer specifically to the repetitive pattern of abusive actions followed by reconciliation, creating a chaotic emotional environment. Let's consider a contrasting example to clarify these differences. Take Sarah, who feels helpless in her relationship with her partner. Her captive mindset leads her to believe she cannot find happiness outside this relationship. She fears being alone and deems herself unworthy of love. In this dynamic, her internal struggle prevents her from leaving an unhealthy situation, as she equates her self-worth with her partner's acceptance. This differs markedly from Brian, who is caught in a cycle of abuse. He experiences intense emotional outbursts from his partner, punctuated by periods of tenderness and promises of change. While Sarah's struggles stem from her perception of self-worth, Brian's experience revolves around the cyclical nature of conflict and resolution, causing confusion and deep emotional trauma. The key difference between the two lies in the focus. The captive mindset is predominantly centered on the individual's belief system and self-perception, while the cycles of abuse illuminate interpersonal dynamics and relationship patterns, showcasing how power is exerted over time. To further illustrate this distinction, visualize a boat anchored to a dock. Sarah represents the boat that believes it cannot set sail due to the belief that it will capsize without the dock's security. In contrast, Brian is the boat that sways back and forth with the tide, caught in the ever-changing waves of emotional highs and lows, uncertain of when the next storm will come. Both boats are stuck, but their reasons for being so differ significantly. Understanding these differences is integral to breaking free from these harmful patterns. Begin by reflecting on your own experiences. Are fears about worth holding you back from seeking healthier relationships? Or are you caught in a repetitive cycle of conflict that leaves you emotionally drained? Thoughtful journaling can help you articulate feelings and recognize patterns in your relationships, fostering clarity around these dynamics. To counter the captive mindset, empower yourself with self-affirmations that reinforce your intrinsic worth. Recognize that your value is independent of someone else's validation. Engage in activities that promote your self-esteem and independence, such as hobbies, volunteer work, or pursuing education. Building a supportive network of friends and mentors will also encourage you to step outside your comfort zone and challenge limiting beliefs. For those ensnared in cycles of abuse, create a safety plan that establishes boundaries with the individual causing harm. Be clear about what behaviors you will not tolerate and practice assertive communication. Seek help from trusted friends, family members, or professionals who can provide refuge and guidance when needed. At the end of the day, both concepts, captivity in the mind and the cyclical nature of abuse, serve to remind us of the importance of self-awareness and emotional resilience. Recognizing these patterns is crucial for reclaiming your life and fostering relationships built on mutual respect and understanding. To explore these themes further and gather more strategies for navigating complex emotional landscapes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche. Every step you take towards understanding your emotional health brings you closer to a more fulfilling and empowered life. Together, we can delve into your journey of self-discovery, healing, and growth. Your awareness is your strength, and with it, you can unshackle yourself from the chains of unhealthy dynamics. Chapter 7. Breaking the Chains of Psychological Enslavement. Imagine a woman named Clara who feels an oppressive weight upon her shoulders, as though the air in her environment is thick with expectations and self-doubt. She is often praised for her dedication at work, but what no one sees is the fatigue that comes from constantly trying to meet everyone's demands. Clara finds herself in a psychological enslavement, caught in the relentless cycle of trying to please others at the expense of her own well-being. This scenario is distressingly common for many individuals who find themselves ensnared in a web of psychological pressures that feel inescapable. Understanding the concept of psychological enslavement is crucial for reclaiming personal autonomy and establishing healthier boundaries in every aspect of life. Psychological enslavement occurs when an individual loses their sense of self-determination and autonomy, often because they have surrendered control of their decisions and emotions to external influences. This can stem from various sources such as toxic relationships, demanding work environments, or societal pressures to conform. For instance, Clara's desire for validation and acceptance from her colleagues drives her to overextend herself, leading to exhaustion and burnout. While her hard work is lauded, the toll it takes on her mental health remains invisible to those around her. This form of enslavement often breeds a sense of victimhood, as individuals may feel trapped in their circumstances, believing they have no power to change their situation. The psychological chains of enslavement can manifest in numerous areas of life, such as personal relationships, professional settings, and social interactions. In relationships, psychological enslavement might appear as a constant need for approval or acceptance from a partner or friend. A person may find themselves altering their views or behaviors to fit someone else's expectations, losing sight of their own identity in the process. In the workplace, employees may feel compelled to abide by an emotionally toxic culture, suppressing their own values and ideas to fit in, thereby stunting their professional growth. This can create a damaging cycle in which self-worth is solely tied to external validation, leaving individuals feeling increasingly powerless. Another notable example of psychological enslavement can occur in families. For instance, a child who feels the weight of their parents' aspirations might ignore their own dreams and desires in favor of fulfilling family expectations. As they grow, this sense of obligation can evolve into a complete suppression of personal identity, leaving them feeling enslaved by their upbringing. To articulate the impact of psychological enslavement, consider an analogy of a bird in a cage. While the bird exists within the confines of the cage, it may assume that its circumstances are fixed and unchangeable. It continues to exist in a limited space, believing there's no way to fly free. The moment the door to the cage is opened, the bird must confront its fears and uncertainties about the new world outside. This analogy illustrates that psychological enslavement often stems from internalized beliefs about capability and worthiness, which can only be overcome with a conscious effort to break free. Recognizing the psychological bondage in your own life is the first step toward liberation. Take a moment to evaluate the dynamics of your relationships and the obligations you feel compelled to meet. Are you compromising your desires for the sake of others? A journal can be an effective tool to document your feelings and experiences, allowing you to uncover the patterns that may lead to your enslavement. To break free from these mental chains, establish boundaries that safeguard your emotional well-being. Practice assertive communication by clearly expressing your needs and limitations. Surround yourself with supportive individuals who encourage your authenticity rather than stifling it. As we delve into this critical topic, remember that reclaiming your autonomy is not merely about escaping external pressures, but rediscovering your own identity. If you want to learn more about breaking free from psychological enslavement and building healthier, more empowered relationships, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche. Together, we will navigate the path toward self-discovery, liberation, and authentic living. Your journey to empowerment begins now. In continuing our exploration of psychological enslavement, we now turn our attention to a related but distinct concept: the role of learned helplessness. While psychological enslavement encapsulates the state of feeling trapped by external pressures, learned helplessness develops from a sense of powerlessness as a result of repeated experiences where one's actions do not yield desired outcomes. Individuals with learned helplessness might believe that their efforts are fruitless and that any attempt to improve their situation is met with failure, ultimately leading to a pervasive sense of despair. Consider the case of Alex, who has been persistently subjected to negative feedback and criticism in his workplace. Over time, he comes to believe that no matter how hard he tries, he will never succeed or impress his superiors. This belief paralyzes him, preventing him from taking initiative or seeking growth opportunities, as he feels trapped in a cycle of inevitable defeat. The fundamental distinction between psychological enslavement and learned helplessness lies in their origins and manifestations. Psychological enslavement often stems from the external influences and expectations imposed by others. In contrast, learned helplessness emerges from the internalization of repeated negative experiences, leading individuals to accept defeat as their only reality. This acceptance can morph into a self-fulfilling prophecy, where the expectation of failure limits one's potential for success. For instance, while Clara, who experiences psychological enslavement, may feel obligated to meet others' demands, Alex feels resigned to the belief that he cannot change his circumstances due to past failures. To illustrate this further, imagine a wild horse that has been tethered to a post since it was a foal. This horse learns over time that no matter how hard it struggles, the tether holds firm, leading it to accept its captivity as its fate. Now picture the same horse as an adult, given an open gate to freedom. While the horse has the physical capacity to escape, it may not even attempt to leave because it has internalized the belief that it cannot break free. The horse represents learned helplessness. Despite the opportunity, it feels powerless to act. Conversely, psychological enslavement resembles a horse that remains within a corral constructed by the expectations of others, sooner or later accepting its limitations as a result of external pressure. Recognizing the signs of learned helplessness is critical for personal empowerment and overcoming the traps of psychological enslavement. Self-reflection is essential in this process. Ask yourself whether you find yourself repeatedly avoiding challenges or dismissing your own potential for success. Journal about instances where you may have felt like giving up or where repeated failures led you to doubt your abilities. Identifying these patterns is the first step toward breaking free. To counteract learned helplessness, practice incorporating small, manageable goals into your daily life. Celebrate each accomplishment regardless of its size, and consciously remind yourself of your strengths and abilities. Surround yourself with supportive individuals who uplift you and encourage you to take risks. Participating in workshops or seeking mentorship can also empower you to challenge your beliefs about failure and success. As we conclude this chapter, understand that breaking the chains of psychological enslavement and learned helplessness is a journey toward reclaiming your agency in life. Each step taken toward self-awareness, empowerment, and autonomy is a victory. For additional insights on navigating these psychological concepts and fostering resilience, be sure to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche. Together, we will explore further strategies that nurture personal growth and build a life characterized by choice, empowerment, and authenticity. Your path to liberation starts here, and the potential for transformative change is within you. Chapter 8: Healing from False Loyalty and Fear. Have you ever experienced the unsettling feeling of remaining loyal to someone who causes you emotional pain? This predicament is more common than many realize, as it often stems from a complex interplay of fear and a misguided sense of loyalty. People frequently find themselves decision-making through the lens of duty rather than genuine affection, leading to toxic relationships that suppress their well-being. Understanding the psychological dynamics of false loyalty rooted in fear is essential for reclaiming your emotional clarity and fostering healthier, more authentic connections. False loyalty occurs when an individual feels compelled to remain loyal to someone, even when the relationship is harmful. This loyalty is often grounded in fear: the fear of losing that person, the fear of being abandoned, or the fear of facing the reality that leaving may expose their vulnerabilities. Consider a case like that of Rachel, who has been close friends with Lisa for years. Despite constantly feeling belittled and criticized by Lisa, Rachel clings to the friendship, fearing that without it, she will be left isolated or judged. Her sense of loyalty is misguided. Rachel associates enduring the pain with being a good friend, convinced that leaving would reflect poorly on her character. This kind of loyalty can manifest in various settings, including intimate relationships, friendships, and workplaces. In a romantic relationship, for example, one partner may endure emotional manipulation or abusive treatment out of fear of being alone or not finding love again. This misplaced dedication can leave individuals feeling trapped, as the fear of taking a stand often overshadows their need for self-respect and happiness. Similarly, in professional environments, employees may feel an obligation to remain loyal to a toxic boss or company culture, fearing that voicing their discomfort could lead to job loss or detrimental career impacts. The common thread in all these scenarios is the attachment to someone or something that ultimately undermines their well-being. To differentiate false loyalty from genuine loyalty, we must delve deeper into the motivations behind each. Genuine loyalty derives from mutual respect and trust, where both parties acknowledge the value of the relationship and support each other's growth. False loyalty, conversely, is fraught with fear and unspoken resentment, often serving as a mechanism for one party to maintain control over the other. An effective analogy here can be drawn from the concept of a crutch. While a crutch can offer necessary support in times of injury, relying on it indefinitely can lead to weakness and dependency, ultimately hindering recovery. In the same way, false loyalty can initially feel protective, but eventually leads to emotional stagnation and distress. Recognizing signs of false loyalty in your own life is the first step toward healing and liberation. Begin by asking yourself reflective questions. Are you staying in a relationship out of fear rather than love? Do you often suppress your feelings to avoid conflict? Journaling your thoughts can help uncover these patterns, clarifying the motivations behind your loyalties. To heal from false loyalty, focus on establishing boundaries. Understand that it is entirely permissible to prioritize your emotional health over a relationship that causes harm. Seek your right to voice your needs and assert your value, no matter the response. Surround yourself with supportive individuals who encourage honest communication and emotional growth. As we navigate through these important topics, remember that self-awareness is your most potent tool in breaking free from the chains of false loyalty. For deeper insights into healing from these dynamics and achieving healthy connections, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche. Through mutual exploration, we can unveil the journey toward genuine loyalty, self-respect, and happiness. Your path to emotional freedom begins now, and it is filled with possibilities for profound transformation and empowerment. Continuing our exploration into the theme of false loyalty, it's vital to delve into the concept of emotional dependence, which often intertwines with the misguided sense of loyalty we discussed earlier. Emotional dependence involves relying on another person for emotional support to such an extent that it compromises one's self-identity and well-being. For example, consider someone like Laura, who feels incomplete without her partner's constant reassurance. Despite knowing that her partner's behavior can be inconsiderate at times, Laura stays in the relationship due to a profound fear of abandonment. This dependence can lead to an unhealthy attachment style, where her emotional state becomes solely tethered to her partner's actions. Unlike false loyalty, which can stem from societal or relational expectations, emotional dependence is deeply personal and rooted in an individual's fear of loneliness and insecurity. To further distinguish these two concepts, it's essential to look at their origins and impacts. False loyalty might compel someone to remain loyal due to external pressures, such as societal norms, family expectations, or cultural teachings. For instance, a person may adhere to familial loyalty, convincing themselves they must support an abusive family member out of obligation, all while feeling conflicted. On the other hand, emotional dependence tends to arise from internalized beliefs about self-worth and fear, where an individual feels that their happiness hinges on their relationship with someone else. A critical difference lies in the motivation behind each. False loyalty is often driven by perceived obligations, while emotional dependence is fueled by deep-seated insecurities. Think of a bird in a cage to illustrate these distinctions. When a bird remains in its cage out of false loyalty, it does so because it believes it must stay close to its owners or suffer emotional repercussions. In contrast, an emotionally dependent bird believes it cannot thrive outside the cage, equating freedom with an overwhelming sense of fear and vulnerability. This analogy underscores the different psychological mechanisms at play. One involves an external perception of obligation, while the other centers around internal fears and self-perceptions. Recognizing the signs of emotional dependence is crucial for personal growth and empowerment. Begin by assessing your relationships. Do you often feel anxious about being alone or immense pressure to seek validation from others? Take time to consider how your emotional well-being fluctuates based on the approval or disapproval of those around you. Engage in reflective journaling about experiences where you felt a strong emotional reaction tied solely to another person's moods or actions. This reflection can help you identify patterns of dependence and shed light on your emotional landscape. To combat emotional dependence, actively cultivate a practice of self-reliance and self-care. Encourage independence by engaging in activities that promote self-discovery and personal growth, whether through hobbies, education, or professional development. Establish healthy boundaries within your relationships, expressing your needs clearly and understanding that your worth is not defined by someone else's approval. Surround yourself with supportive individuals who encourage your independence and value who you are as a person. As we wrap up this chapter, remember that breaking free from the shackles of false loyalty and emotional dependence is not merely about changing relationships. It's about reclaiming your identity and emotional strength. For deeper insights and strategies on navigating these intricate dynamics, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche. Together, we can explore the pathways toward healthier relationships where self-worth is nurtured and emotional well-being thrives. Your journey toward empowerment and authenticity is a courageous and necessary endeavor. And it starts today. Chapter 9. Reclaiming Identity Beyond the Trauma Bond. Have you ever felt like a shadow of yourself in a relationship, where your desires, beliefs, and identity seem to fade into the background? This struggle is not uncommon for those who find themselves in trauma bonds, where emotional connections formed under stressful or abusive circumstances can obscure the true self. The journey to reclaim one's identity after entanglement in such bonds is profound, but entirely possible. Understanding the dynamics of trauma bonding and the subsequent journey towards self-discovery is crucial for breaking free and rediscovering who you are outside of the relationship. Trauma bonding is characterized by the intense emotional connection that forms between an abuser and their victim, often fueled by cycles of abuse followed by reconciliation. This erratic emotional climate creates confusion where moments of affection and care are intertwined with manipulation and control. Imagine Sam, who has been in a tumultuous relationship for years. Despite the ongoing emotional roller coaster, where love and pain coalesce, he clings tightly to the belief that he cannot live without his partner. The bond becomes a crutch, making it difficult to see the damage caused. Sam feels lost, not only in the relationship, but also within himself. The trauma bond leads individuals to experience a distorted sense of love that can make it nearly impossible to separate their identity from the relationship. This phenomenon manifests in various forms, from romantic relationships to familial ties and even friendships. In romantic settings, one may overlook or excuse abusive behavior, convincing themselves it is a reflection of love. In familial settings, individuals may feel obligated to remain close to family members who are harmful, believing that loyalty is paramount, even at the cost of their mental health. A worker may cultivate a toxic relationship with a controlling boss, believing they must endure mistreatment to protect their job. The common thread in all these scenarios is the impact trauma bonding has on an individual's sense of self, often leading to a codependent dynamic that stifles personal growth and autonomy. Reclaiming your identity beyond the trauma bond requires a conscious effort towards self-reflection and self-awareness. It's essential to recognize that the unhealthy attachment formed through trauma bonds has distorted perceptions, often leaving individuals feeling unworthy or invalidated. The first step in this reclamation process is engaging in self-reflection. Start by asking yourself questions like, who am I outside of this relationship? What are my passions, interests, and goals? Do I even know what makes me happy? Taking time to journal about your thoughts and feelings can help untangle your identity from the bonds that have held you captive. Additionally, it is crucial to surround yourself with supportive individuals who reinforce your self-worth and encourage your journey of self-discovery. Building a network of friends or mentors who affirm your decisions and offer a safe space for expression can foster an environment conducive to healing. Engaging in activities that promote self-identity can also be transformative. Explore new hobbies, take classes, or pursue interests that have always intrigued you but were sidelined during your entanglement. As we navigate through this chapter, remember that your journey toward reclaiming your identity is both a brave and liberating endeavor. The process may be challenging and it may take time, but every step you take toward understanding and honoring your true self is a victory. For further insights on breaking free from trauma bonds and nurturing your identity, be sure to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche. Together, we will explore the strength and resilience within you, guiding you toward a life of authenticity and fulfillment. Your journey to self-discovery begins now. The path is yours to reclaim. Continuing our discussion of reclaiming identity beyond the trauma bond, we must now examine the concept of self-empowerment, which is essential for breaking free from unhealthy emotional attachments. While trauma bonds bind individuals in ways that suppress their true selves, self-empowerment represents the conscious effort to regain control over one's life, decisions, and identity after periods of emotional entanglement. For instance, consider the journey of Mia, who, after ending a toxic relationship, realizes she has the power to make choices that align with her values and interests. She begins to explore new activities that bring her joy, gradually rebuilding her sense of self, which had been overshadowed by her previous partner's demands. This transformation reflects the essence of self-empowerment, recognizing one's inherent worth and taking proactive steps to reclaim it. One of the fundamental differences between the two concepts lies in their sources of strength. Trauma bonds are often rooted in fear and uncertainty, where emotional connections are reinforced through cycles of pain and reconciliation. In contrast, self-empowerment flourishes from a place of inner strength and self-awareness. It requires breaking free from the narratives that kept individuals feeling powerless and embracing the notion that they can shape their own futures. This means understanding that the past does not define your value or potential. For instance, while Mia may have thought her worth was tied solely to her relationship, she soon realizes that her identity can be built on her passions, achievements, and the supportive connections she cultivates, moving forward. To deepen the distinction between trauma bonding and self-empowerment, think of a garden. The trauma bond is akin to weeds entangling the flowers, suffocating their growth. The longer the weeds remain unchecked, the harder it becomes for the flowers, representing one's true self, to thrive. On the other hand, self-empowerment is like the gardener actively pulling out the weeds and nurturing the soil. As the gardener tends to the garden, the flowers can flourish, showcasing the beauty and uniqueness of their identities. This nurturing process symbolizes personal growth after breaking free from trauma. As you reflect on your own experiences, consider whether you feel trapped in cycles that diminish your self-worth, or if you find yourself actively seeking to embrace change and prioritize your needs. Engage in reflective exercises such as journaling about your desires and dreams or recounting accomplishments, no matter how small. This practice reinforces your sense of agency and highlights the steps taken towards self-empowerment. To actively cultivate self-empowerment, establish clear goals that align with your values and interests. This might mean embracing new hobbies, pursuing educational opportunities, or seeking relationships that uplift rather than diminish your sense of self. Surround yourself with positive influences, people who encourage you to realize your potential and celebrate your individuality. Moreover, practice self-compassion by speaking to yourself with kindness and acceptance, just as you would encourage a friend. As we conclude this chapter, recognize that reclaiming your identity and stepping into self-empowerment is a transformative journey. Each step you take builds a foundation for a life rich with authenticity and fulfillment. For ongoing insights and strategies on fostering self-empowerment and navigating life's complexities, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche. Together, we will continue to explore paths toward understanding your worth, embracing your identity, and living a life of purpose and joy. Your journey toward self-empowerment starts here, and the possibilities for growth and renewal are limitless. Chapter 10. Shattering the Illusion. Freedom awaits. Have you ever felt the sudden realization that the life you've been living was merely a reflection of others' expectations rather than your own desires? This moment of clarity can be both liberating and terrifying. It signifies a pivotal turning point in your journey toward authentic living. Many individuals find themselves trapped in illusions formed by societal pressures, unhealthy relationships, and self-doubt. This chapter invites you to examine the concepts of illusion and freedom, revealing how the former can obscure the latter, and what it takes to reclaim your true self. Illusion is a psychological state in which an individual perceives reality in a distorted manner, often due to external influences or internal fears. People may build entire narratives around these illusions, convincing themselves that they need to remain in unhealthy situations to maintain stability or love. For instance, consider Jane, who has been in a long-term relationship that brings her both joy and significant pain. Despite moments of happiness, she often finds herself masked by the illusion that she could never find someone as good again. This warped perspective prevents her from acknowledging the toxicity in her relationship, leading her to endure emotional struggles that weigh her down. The illusion acts almost like a fog, blurring her vision of what a healthy connection should feel like. In relationships, this illusion can manifest as a fear of abandonment, where individuals cling to unhealthy connections out of fear of being alone. They may disregard their own happiness, believing that the pain is worth enduring for the sake of companionship. In workplace dynamics, the illusion can similarly keep someone stuck in a toxic job, as they convince themselves that the security offered by their position outweighs their dissatisfaction. The longer they stay in this illusion, the more difficult it becomes to envision a life outside of their perceived realities. Key to breaking these illusions is the understanding that they often stem from a fog of fear and self-doubt. When we allow fears, fear of rejection, fear of failure, or fear of the unknown, to dictate our choices, we become ensnared in a web that clouds our true desires and potential. The critical difference lies in recognizing that your worth is not contingent upon someone else's validation or a job title. Just like a magician's trick, the illusion may feel real, but it is merely a facade hiding a deeper truth yearning to be exposed. To vividly illustrate this distinction, consider the image of a tightly closed flower bud. From the outside, it may appear beautiful, yet it cannot truly thrive until it opens up to the sun. The closed bud represents the illusions we hold close, while the sun symbolizes the freedom to embrace authenticity and growth. Just like that flower, once we shatter the illusions surrounding us, we can begin to bloom and reach our full potential. Recognizing and confronting these illusions is the first step to embracing freedom. Begin by examining your thoughts critically. Ask yourself if your current situation aligns with your values and aspirations. Journaling can be an effective tool for clarifying these feelings. Writing can illuminate the narratives you hold, encouraging you to challenge the assumptions that may no longer serve you. To further facilitate your journey toward freedom, focus on building self-awareness and resilience. Engage in practices that promote autonomy, such as setting personal goals and establishing boundaries within your relationships and workplace. Surround yourself with supportive people who encourage your growth and challenge you to transcend illusions. As we conclude this chapter, remember that the path to liberation may be difficult. Yet every step taken toward dismantling the illusions is a step toward a more authentic life. If you wish to delve deeper into these topics and gain further insights on how to truly embrace your freedom, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche. Together, we will explore the profound transformation that awaits you as you uncover the essence of your authentic self. Your journey toward freedom starts now, and the possibilities are limitless. Continuing our exploration, it's essential to delve into the concept of emotional freedom, which stands in stark contrast to the illusions we discussed earlier. While illusions can bind individuals to distorted perceptions of their reality, emotional freedom represents the liberation from those constraints. It is the state of being where individuals reclaim their autonomy, allowing them to express their true feelings and desires without the weight of external approval or fear of rejection. For example, consider Lisa, who has spent years feeling like she had to fit a certain mold to be accepted among her peers. She constantly adjusted her opinions and interests to align with what others wanted, believing that genuine connection was contingent upon her ability to please those around her. However, when Lisa began to confront her illusions, she discovered that emotional freedom comes from embracing her authentic self, regardless of how it might be received by others. This shift allows her to cultivate relationships based on honesty and shared values rather than superficial compliance. To further clarify the difference between emotional freedom and the illusions that entrap us, it is helpful to focus on their underlying dynamics. Illusions typically stem from fear. Fear of not being good enough, fear of judgment, or fear of loneliness. This fear manifests as a psychological barrier, obstructing one's ability to see the truth of their situation. Conversely, emotional freedom arises from courage and self-acceptance. When one embraces emotional freedom, they learn to navigate life's uncertainties with confidence, understanding that their worth is not contingent upon external validation. Continuing with Lisa's story, her journey toward emotional freedom required her to face the fear of rejection head-on. Recognizing that staying true to herself might mean losing some relationships, but gaining far more in terms of self-respect and authenticity. Picture this contrast in terms of a towering wall versus an open field. The wall represents the illusions that confine us, creating barriers that prevent us from engaging fully with the world around us. In contrast, the open field symbolizes emotional freedom, where the possibilities are vast and unencumbered. In this space, individuals can explore their interests, express their feelings, and build connections that are meaningful and nurturing. This analogy illustrates how breaking free from illusions is essential to experiencing the broader horizons of emotional freedom. To foster this freedom in your own life, start by engaging in self-reflection to identify the illusions you may have been holding on to. Ask yourself whether fear drives your decisions and whether you often tailor your actions to appease others. Keep a journal to track your thoughts, feelings, and experiences, particularly moments when you felt restricted by the expectations of others or by your internal fears. Acknowledging these patterns is crucial for breaking down the walls of illusion. Developing emotional freedom also involves practicing assertiveness. Communicate your needs clearly and build the courage to set boundaries with others. Surround yourself with individuals who encourage your growth and accept you for who you are, rather than those who rely on you to conform to their expectations. Embrace a variety of practices that nourish your sense of self, whether it's meditation, creative expression, or participating in activities that ignite your passion. As we conclude this chapter, remember that the journey to emotional freedom is an ongoing process entwined with self-awareness and self-acceptance. For further guidance on nurturing this essential aspect of your life and recognizing the psychological tactics that may hold you back, please subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche. Together, we can explore the transformative power of emotional freedom, enabling you to step outside the confines of illusion and into a life rich with authenticity and fulfillment. Your journey toward emotional liberation is here, and the future is bright with possibility. As we conclude this journey together, it's essential to remember that understanding the intricate psychological dynamics we've explored is the first step toward a life filled with authenticity and empowerment. By recognizing the impacts of trauma bonding, emotional manipulation, and the psychological chains that can hold us back, you gain the awareness necessary to reclaim your identity and cultivate healthy relationships. Each step you take toward self-discovery is not just a victory for yourself, but also an affirmation of your worth and potential. Thank you for dedicating your time to this exploration, and I encourage you to take immediate action, whether that means setting boundaries, seeking support, or nurturing your true self. Embrace this empowering moment for change, and remember, your journey toward freedom and authentic living begins now. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, Cloaked Psyche, for more insights on your path to transformation.